I'd like to begin by stating that we did an item analysis for our Module 2 assessment, posted a reconciliation. Some of you have completed those. There is the final version of the Module 2 assessment posted online now. And a few of you have not completed the solution, the Module 2 solution, and those who did miss some items. It was my intention, I included some screenshots of our own example, but I also included to have a video that would kind of guide folks, and I've included that in the solution details now. And what I'd like to do is kind of walk through this. The first part of it's pretty straightforward, but the later parts of this process are actually pretty interesting. And I wanted to show you how the virtual machine, VirtualBox features can really be used to great advantage, especially for maintenance and for depositing additional resources for other users and other machines. So what we'd like to do is take a closer look at the assignment document and then walk through the steps our own, provide an example of the Module 2 solution. Are there any questions before we begin? Now, if we cover stuff that you didn't do for your Module 2 solution and you've already submitted, you've uploaded some things, I can simply clear what you've done before so you can resubmit, okay? Is everybody with me? Can someone unmute your microphone?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right then.
I wish I had gotten it to work now.
All right. What I'd like to do is there we go. So Akeem will be joining us. Good afternoon, Akeem.
Good afternoon.
You're just in time. We were ready to start with the a review of the Module 2 solution. And we've already just explained that the reconciliation for the item analysis we did on our Module 2 assessment is out there. That needs to be completed as soon as possible. And then the retake for the module, your final version, your final attempt of the final version on the Module 2 assessment needs to be completed by the start of class next week, okay? So I've added a handy link for the module solution. Yeah, I'm not going to repeat this again. So sorry about that, guys. I know you've heard this like twice now. And in the interest of time, we're going to go ahead. Hello, Keandre, how are you?
Hello everyone, I'm doing okay.
I thought I'd mention that I have updated the number of points for credit possible, and I've posted more grades online. So essentially, if you go into your grades and then select by course order at the very bottom, you should see earned and possible. Take the one number and divide it by the other, and that'll give you your course average to date. Any questions about that?
It's completely fine.
You say, so one more, just to be on the safe side. To find out your grade, are you taking the earned and possible earned? You only have the possible earned divided by 100. So am I doing a 9? Like if you have like a
No. No, on yours it'll show possible. It'll be a number here, 29. So
okay.
It'll show earned, and then it'll show 29, and you divide the number you earned by the number possible to get your
Great. Okay,
average.
cool.
Now, I haven't scored the solution yet. I want to walk through it, and I want to give people more background so that folks can resubmit. What I'm seeing for submissions in the solution, there's some gaps, and as I mentioned, I had intended to include a video link. This is from a year or two ago, but I'm also going to include the recording from today. So what I'd like to do is walk through this completely so everybody understands what's required. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and get started. And if anyone else joins us, we're just going to go ahead and cue them in and not repeat anymore, right? All right, so here we go. I'm going to walk through part 1A. This is basically a review of what you've done before. You would want to perform host and guest maintenance and follow the order of updates shown in section A of the Module 2 study guide. Essentially, you're starting with the host machine. You're going to run updates. You know, if you have any applications, you'd run updates. Then you'll go inside the virtual machine and run updates. So you do updates here inside the virtual machine. So, yep. So inside here, I would be doing the same thing. I'd get with the start menu and run updates. Or alternatively, what you can do when the server manager comes up, there's a local machine option that pops into view. In just a moment, you'll see that. So server manager will come up on its own. And if you maximize the screen and then click on local server, you can click here on Windows Update and it'll launch it, or you can get into here and hit it from here, from settings, just like you did. So after you finish running updates on the host and on the Windows, see, I've got one now. You want to make sure that it says you don't have any other updates, both on your host and on the virtual machine. And then you're going to check to see if there's a new version of VirtualBox. So the first two criteria are you've cleared updates and you have no more updates on the host and on the guest, and you have screenshots of each, right? And then you have a view of the VirtualBox that shows whether or not it's the latest version. So you have a picture of that. And by that, you're going to go to Help and About VirtualBox. Now, 7.0.2 is the latest version. You can just capture this screen and leave it, or you can go to check for updates. And strangely, this feature might work, might not work. It's hit or miss, but you can go to the VirtualBox website just to check and see if there's a new version out there like 7.0.3. That's not the case. So now if you get to this later in the week and it's already changed, then make sure you show 7.0.3. Whatever the latest version is when you submit, that's the one you have to have in your submission. Okay? People are getting into a jam because they're submitting old screenshots of old 6.1. whatevers, and they're submitting recently, and it's like, dude, we're on 7 now. So, okay. So make sure you get a screenshot showing this 7.0.2 or .3 or .4, depending when you get to it. Any questions so far about the, and the guest editions? So you have to show that the latest guest editions are loaded. When you get into here, inside the virtual machine, there is an easy way to show that. You can simply go into your File Explorer on the virtual machine, and as long as you show these dates for the 22nd, 2022, 19 October, that's the latest version of the VirtualBox editions. If you haven't loaded those yet, you should probably double click them and load them. And it'll show VirtualBox editions. Like if I run this as administrator, it'll open a window that shows VirtualBox 7.0. This is the screenshot you need, right? This is the one you want to capture to submit for the last part of 1A. And that shows that you're loading this version of the guest editions, which is drawn from the extensions and new version of VirtualBox. Any questions about this first part 1A? Now, part 1B is actually pretty cool. So what you're going to do is you're going to, if you haven't set up a new login account on your virtual machine, here's how you're going to do it. You are going to, I'm going to cancel out of this because I've already loaded it. What you're going to do is you're going to use the server manager that's already open on your account. And you're going to go to the Tools menu and select Computer Management, the second option down from the top. Does everybody see this? Computer Management. Yeah. Okay. When you select Computer Management, a screen will come up. It's called the Computer Management MMC, Microsoft Management Console. And you'll see local users and groups. If you don't see that, just expand the options here. So System Tools will show local users and groups. Select users. I created a new account called Other Guy, but I'm going to show you what you can do to create. I'm going to go walk through the process here. I'm not going to finish that and log in because I've already got one in here. But originally I had administrator, and I'm going to create a second account I've called Other Guy. You can do the same, but give it your own unique name, okay? All you do is select below here in the white space and then right click in the white space and select New User. And you want to give it another name, like, this. You're going to take off this checkbox. You'll say user cannot change password. Password never expires. And then you're going to fill in a password and confirm the password and click create. And that's it. Then you're going to log in with that new account. Okay. And when you do, it's going to take a moment. Screen will appear black. That's because it's building a new profile as you log in with it. But the key thing we want to show you is how cool you can utilize some of the features in your virtual machine and how other logins on a system can impact its operation, right? So basically, what you have here is a switch user option. I'm logged in as the administrator right now on my virtual machine. And after I've created a new user and set up one, right, and logged in with it, you want to start your virtual machine in detached mode. Does everybody know what detached mode is?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, basically I have this running, but I can start something in detached mode. We want to start it in detached mode because we're going to use switched user on this machine while it's going, and we don't want it to go to sleep. So yeah, now it says you're up to date. So I'm not going to log out. I'm logged in administrator. This now, once again, in order to do this, after you set up a new user, you want to log in once with that new user account to make sure it's working, to make sure that you can log in with it, and so that it builds the user profile. But then when you've got all that in place, you start your virtual machine in detached mode, log in as administrator, but instead of logging out, use the switch user option to log into the alternate account. And then I want you to open the task manager with that other login and select the users tab, right? So you want to capture a screenshot showing both accounts in place, but save it to a temp folder on the C drive to allow access from the other login. Now, in order to do that, you have to make sure that the temp folder allows the new user to save to that folder, okay? What am I saying? I'm saying that if I open up my File Explorer and I look at my C drive, and I have a temp, I don't have a temp folder here, right? So I'm going to create a temp folder because I want to be able to work between users who might be logged in. I want a place where I can store things centrally, right? And I'm going to go ahead and in the properties, I'm going to right click the temp folder and go to properties. I'm going to go to the security option, and users can only read and execute. The new user I created can only read and execute from there, but I want my other guy account to explicitly be able to save things. See, the administrator can save things in there. So I'm going to do something here. I'm going to click Advanced, and then I'm going to disable inheritance and convert the inherited permissions. That's another topic for our last module. And then I'm going to add a security principal. Another name for a security principal is account. So I have an other guy account. I just created it. And that's why I'm on the machine called Goku in the anime work group. And I'm going to select modify privileges in read and write for other guy and say okay. And now what you see is that other guy has modify rights. So when other guy is logged in, other guy can create files, change files, work changes in that folder, right? And I'm going to select this box that says replace all child object permission entries with inheritable permission entries for this object. Now that's a mouthful, but essentially the administrator can do everything. The other guy can make changes or post files. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say okay. It'll say, hey, this will replace explicitly defined permissions. Do you wish to continue? And I'm going to say yes. So now I have a temp folder that other users on my machine can work with, and you can share stuff in between. So what I'm going to do now is close this screen. And after I've set up that access in a temp folder, right, I'm going to switch to, I'm going to open up, I'm going to switch user, log in with the other account, and then open Task Manager and look at the users tab and then capture the screenshot and save it in the temp folder. Now, why am I going to do that? Well, I want you to see what happens. I am now logged in as administrator, but I'm going to click on that because I want to be able to switch accounts. And I should be able to switch user, except I don't see the switch user option on here. Maybe they removed that from Server 2022. Now let's see. I'm in Windows 10. I can choose one of the other accounts here. I wonder I wonder if I need to reboot my system after I created that new user. I should see the other user underneath here, and I think that might be part of the problem. So I'm going to go ahead and see if that doesn't resolve the issue by restarting the computer just to clear that, okay? Is everybody with me?
Okay.
Yeah, so I created the new user, but it's not showing in the list yet. Could be that I have to reboot my system. I should see the new user appear in the lower left corner as a login option. So if I have my laptop optimized properly, it shouldn't take long for me to reboot my system. It should come up pretty quickly. Even though I've created a new user and run updates, it should still come up pretty quickly. And it does. And I'm using a 10-year-old IBM ThinkPad. So optimizing your personal technology really does work. Now you can see other guy here. Everybody, you got me, right? You see other guy here? So I can sign in as the administrator. And then as I look at this, I want to change users. Now it could be that it's different in Server 2022, but we'll find out. So here's my start menu. One interesting thing, I'm not sure if this adapter is set for bridged or NAT. Let me check to see if my network adapter is set to bridged or, oh, it's set to NAT, okay. So one thing I can do to work around this, if I run into a problem, I can set my system to bridged, and then it'll pick up a different IP address. And at this point, I should be able to see I've picked up a similar address as my laptop. So I'm going to look at my laptop IP address and see what my laptop IP address is. I'm conducting this session from a hotel lobby in Charleston, South Carolina. I look and I have a 10.22.2 IP address. 10.22.2. So I'm going to go ahead and capture that for just a second here. I'll be able to remember that. And let's see where I am inside here. If I look in here, I need to be able to disconnect and reconnect, and I should pick up a 10 dot address just like I do here. So I'm going to close this, disable it, enable it, and I should be able to pick up a 10 dot address. So it doesn't show it yet. Anyway, I might not need this as a workaround in case. Let's see what settings I have here. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I noodle with it a little bit, eventually it's going to identify the network, and I'm going to pick up a similar address. So if I have to, I can log in. I can log in with the other account by connecting to it with remote desktop. Right now, remote desktop is disabled, but I can enable it. And that would allow me to connect with the other user IP address or the username if I have to. So I'm going to go ahead and basically click on this, and in a server operating system, instead of seeing another option to switch user, what you'll do is you'll connect remotely while the administrator is running. Okay, so I'm going to enable remote desktop. And I'll say allow remote connections. I'll enable this in the firewall. I'll say apply. And I'm going to select users who are authorized to remotely connect to this. And I'm going to add other guy. Okay. Now administrator already has access. So now if I look, the other guy is part of this and should be able to connect. So this is running, and I'm essentially I'm going to lock the screen, right? So I have let's see if this has oh, it's still showing 169.254. In bridged mode, that should have picked up a 10. Let's see here. Hang on a second, everybody. Shows bridged. Let's do one more thing here. I'm going to go ahead and reboot again one last time, just to make sure I can. Now, it could be that the hotel security won't let me set up another network, but essentially what you can do is log in with your first account on your virtual machine. And then after you've enabled remote desktop, you can come to your start menu here and use remote desktop to connect to your machine and log in with your other account. And once you've done that, you can show both accounts active, one of them disconnected, in the task manager window. And that's a useful thing to understand as far as multiple users being on the same machine. So I may have another recording with an alternate segment to offer for this part of it, but let's log in again. And as I logged into this machine, this worked really nicely on the 2019 version. I guess they've changed some things in the 2022 version. So it would be nice to see if we've picked up a 10.2 address, or if we're still, if it shows the 169, then I've got hotel security. And again, I'll re-record this. What's cool about switching user with a virtual machine is that basically you can open up your task manager and there's a users tab. You select more details and there's a users tab and it will show the other user logged in. So yeah, we have another user logged in and you can basically work interesting details, like you can disconnect them, you can send a message to them while they're logged in. It's a pretty cool feature. And that was the intent of the second part of our solution, was to give you a taste of how that works. So let me see if our IP address shows up here. And then if it doesn't, we'll move on. Do each of you have your working virtual machine, the 2022 server? Yeah, the hotel security is going to prevent me from doing this. The other video shows this kind of stuff. So basically the older video does show this. So instead of demonstrating live, in any case, what you'll do is you'll take a look at the users tab in Task Manager, like I've just shown you, and instead of seeing one, you'll see two users. And then what you're going to do is go to the processes and scroll down to where you see VirtualBox, okay? And what you want to do is select the option that says VirtualBox Guest Additions, and that is the second thing that you're going to capture. So you can go to View and take a screenshot of the users that's shown, and then a screenshot of the processes where you've scrolled down and you see VirtualBox. 2 screenshots. Any questions about part 1B? Any questions? So basically, when you have captured those screenshots, you can save them to the temp folder that you just set up. And then the administrative user can see them. So users can see each other and they can share information between files, between directories and folders, if the configuration is set up right. So that's the intent of part 1B. Can I get somebody to unmute your mic? And
No worries, we're still here.
okay. So there's another option to share information between users on a virtual machine, besides a directory where permissions are set up. There's an option inside VirtualBox called File Manager. Now this is different from File Explorer in Windows. So when we say File Manager, we're talking about a VirtualBox feature. And what I'd like you to do is to see how this works and see how you can transfer information between host and guest machines, even if drag and drop isn't configured, even if the clipboard isn't configured, even if you don't have access to USB thumb drives that you can transfer data between your virtual machine and the host machine, or you have shared folders configured. So what we want to do is turn all of the other file share methods between a virtual machine and its host and turn those off. And then we'll open up the file manager from the machine menu to enter login and password for the virtual machine. So the session is created between the host and the virtual machine. And then we'll create a text file on the host desktop called PunchBuggy. And the XX are your initials. So you're going to see me doing TK, but when you create PunchBuggy on your desktop for the host, you're going to be putting that in here. So any questions about what we're doing so far? All right. I'm going to go ahead and close down my virtual machine because otherwise I don't have access to these settings. Nope. I'm going to power it off. So now that my virtual machine is powered off and I've shut it down, I'm going to access the drag and drop clipboard USB and shared folders features. So in here, when I select my server 2022 system, I go to settings, and inside the general, right? If you look under the advanced tab under general, there's a clipboard setting that says bidirectional. What does that mean? I can copy things on my host machine and then paste them into my host and vice versa. So when I copy and paste, I can do copy and paste between host and virtual machines. I'm going to set this to disabled. I can also drag and drop between my virtual machine and my desktop. So if those settings are configured and my virtual machine is running, I can drag something from my host desktop into the desktop of my virtual machine. Again, I'm going to disable them because I want to show you how many different options you have for sharing information between your virtual machine and your guest machine. So we're going to use some additional tools that are basically fail-proof, even when everything else fails. So sometimes in a virtual machine and host machine, some of this drag and drop, copy and paste stuff doesn't work. And that depends on the operating system. Moving right along, inside the system, well, under serial ports, I want to make sure that that's disabled, so that's unchecked. I'm sorry, under USB, I want to disable USB drives, right? So I can disable the USB drive. It says invalid setting detected. This is needed to support an emulated USB pointing device. It will be enabled automatically if you confirm your changes. Okay, so that's kind of different. Used to be able to determine, so if I go to my system, there are options to remove the USB hardware from the, well, make a long story short, it's kind of difficult to work with a USB. So if you find you're running into the same problem and you get this option, go ahead and uncheck it. Then in shared folders, you want to make sure there's nothing listed for shared folders. So to summarize, you don't have any shared folders listed. You have USB unchecked. And in the system, in the general tab under advanced, you show disabled and disabled. Okay. Those are screenshots you have to capture. And then you're going to say, okay. And what you're going to see now is that when we start our system up, I'm going to be able to use an option called File Manager. And File Manager will allow me to put something from this machine into that machine. So I'm going to create on my desktop a new file called Punch Buggy with my initials. TK. And then I'm going to go ahead and I can put a message in here, right? So enter the following line of text. This file was created on my host system, right? Everybody see that? So now I have a file on my desktop called Punch Buggy, and inside the Punch Buggy text file, it says this file was created on my host system. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to inside VirtualBox, and I'm going to use a resource called File Manager. So I'm going to use the File Manager from the machine menu, and I'm going to enter a login and password for the virtual machine. So a session is created between the host and the VM. So this is like remote desktop, okay? So I've got my server 2022 selected. I'm going to go to the machine menu, and I'm going to go to File Manager. Does everybody see under Tools, I have File Manager? Everyone?
Yeah.
So I open up File Manager. And basically, I'm going to go ahead and enter a password so I can go into my server here. And let's see here. Options. Okay, that's down here. If I go to open a session, settings. No, that's not what I want. So if I go into here, yeah, this is really different in the new version. And so username and password, that's where it is. Can everybody see this? Down here?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that was, I didn't pick up on that. So this is where you go. I'm going to enter the username administrator. And then I'm going to put in my password for that virtual machine. And then I'm going to open a session. And at this point, I have access to the C drive and the D drive on my virtual machine. And in here on the C drive, I can double click to get into the users folder in my login I'm on right now, owner. I'm going to go to the desktop and I'm going to select Punch Buggy. And I'm going to move it over here, but I want to do it inside the users folder under administrator, or I'll tell you what, I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to go into other guy, okay? I want to drop this into the desktop of the other guy login. Is everybody with me?
Yes.
So I go to the desktop of the other guy login, and this is where I'm going to drop Punch Buggy. So at this point, that's what I've done. I've just use the file manager in VirtualBox. And if this works, I should be able to log in as the other guy, and I'll see PunchBuggy TK sitting on my desktop. I'll be able to open it, and it'll say, this file was created on my host system, right? Now, the interesting thing is, my other guy login is not an administrator on the virtual machine. But because I'm connecting to the virtual machine with an administrative account, I can share and post files inside a virtual machine. And I can use the file manager to transfer it to a temp folder on the virtual machine. So actually, I could choose to put it on the temp folder in the virtual machine because I created that temp folder. Let's wonder if I should do that. I'm just going to use the desktop for now. Okay. I want you to see how the permissions are, right? Read, write. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my machine. And this time I'm going to log in other guy. So in just a moment, when the other guy desktop comes up, I should see PunchBuggy. And if I open up that document, it should say this file was created on my host system. So what we wanted to do was to walk through some of the methods and techniques in the solution for module 2, and then actually demonstrate this stuff. What we were able to do is show that even when the other options to share files between virtual machines and host machines do not, they're disabled, right? For security reasons, they're disabled. You can still manage your virtual machine and you can precision deposit data files and applications inside a virtual machine, as long as you have access to a suitable login account on that virtual machine. So once again, the solution here in module 2 has been revised to include updated detail and a link for a video that shows many of these methods. And what I'd like to do is, if you've already submitted your solution, but there were parts of your solution walkthrough as you followed along with the written material, if you weren't quite sure there, you could watch the video. You can send me an email and I can remove your initial submission. If you'd like me to go ahead and score your initial submission to see what's missing, I can do that also, okay? But you're going to take advantage of some of these same features and functionality for the later parts of the solution. So you're going to use drag and drop and so on here, and then show it. The important thing I want you to understand is that you want to open the text file on the host and then open the text file on the guest machine. And after you walk through the rest of the steps for changing these files, it should be very clear that the one on the host machine started out to be the one, the one on the guest machine, the virtual machine, started out to be the one from the host. But then after you use these other options, you made changes, and now it's clear that those two files are different, okay? Is there any question about what we've clarified for the module 2 solution?